Okay, lesson 2. Last week I broke into the diatonic scale patterns, and I specifically showed you how the diatonic scale patterns matched up with our 3 most important pentatonic scale patterns. The main pattern, the second pattern, and the fourth pattern. Alright? And we talked about that the diatonic scale patterns really just added a couple of extra notes to the patterns, right? This week I want to go through, I'm going to show you the rest of the patterns. In fact, I'm going to go through it more systematically here and show you all 7 patterns, alright? And so if I'm in the key of C major, or its relative minor A, which is, our very common rock key, if I wanted to play all up and down the fretboard in this key using diatonic stuff, I might do this. I'm going to come all the way to the open strings down at the bottom, alright? And the very first pattern is, in fact, this is the pattern that you learn when you're in the beginning guitar course, or in any Guitar Method 1 book. They teach you the open string C major scale, and it goes like this. Okay? Okay? This scale pattern, again, it's actually the key of C major, but we're starting on the open E string. E is the third of the key of C major, so this is the third scale pattern. Alright? There's another place to play this pattern in this same key. If we go up to the 12th fret, which I want to show you, it's important. We just did it last week, but I want to point out to you it's the same thing, except I don't like using open strings. If you're going to go play some AC/DC or some Stevie Ray Vaughan, you get stuck using it, some Jimi Hendrix stuff. But for the most part, it's a little uncomfortable sometimes to play open strings. But this same pattern played with fingers on the fretboard instead of open strings is a very common and useful pattern, easy to play. 1, 2, 4. Okay, this is the pattern we talked about last week. I just want you to recognize that this pattern and the open string version are the same. They're the third pattern in the key of C major. All right? Following that, we're going to come back down to the bottom of the guitar. We're going to go to the fourth pattern because it starts on F, the fourth of the key of C. It starts at the first fret, and here we're going to have a situation where we need to stretch a bit, and I find it best to stretch from your first finger to your second finger, and then your second finger to the fourth finger comes down like so. We need to cover 5 frets on this scale pattern and on a couple of other patterns, okay? And this is the way I prefer to cover 5 frets, by stretching from the first to the second finger 2 frets. That way the second to fourth finger don't have to stretch as far. They're just doing their normal 2 fret thing, all right? If I see a lot of people try to do first and third finger and then stretch from the third to the fourth, it's too hard to do. Keep it first and second. This pattern goes like this. Okay? If I move to the 5th of the C major scale, that lands me on G. Again, I'm going to have that stretch pattern. Here we go. Okay? The 6th of the key of C is A. We already really covered this one, but we'll just go through it again. Okay? The 7th of the key of C is B, and so this pattern we actually covered. Okay? I'm going to start a pattern right on the C note, and I'm going to do the stretch pattern here. Okay, that's our first pattern. D is the second in the key of C, and here we go. And that brings us right back to that E pattern that I showed you at the 12th fret, the 3rd pattern. And guess what? If I want to continue playing in this key up the fretboard, where do I go next? I start on F, I do the 4th pattern, the one I did down at the 1st fret before. And then the 5th pattern starting on G. Whoops. And then 6th starting on A. You see these patterns, they start to repeat after we've gone 12 frets, correct? All right? If I could fit my fingers in here, I've got that 7th pattern, and then I run out of frets. Some guitars have an extra couple of frets, so you could probably fit one more pattern if your cutaway is big enough, and you can do that. By understanding all these patterns, you understand how to play the entire fretboard. If you practice each and every one of these patterns until you're sick of them, you'll have them so thoroughly memorized, your hand will just know how to play through all these patterns, and you'll be able to play lead guitar up and down the neck, and you'll be able to just play melodies at will. And it's a really cool point to get to. It starts by practicing each and every pattern individually till you have that one pattern just memorized like crazy. Then you move on to the next pattern. You eventually learn all 7. I suggest you practice each pattern starting at the 1st fret. Play it straight across and back, move up a fret, play it straight across and back, just keep moving up a fret with the same pattern over and over and over again. Then you start doing all those kind of exercises I've shown you. Then you start doing some of the puzzle locking stuff I think I've talked to you about. Hope I've talked to you about that. If I haven't talked to you about it in the intermediate course, then you need to dig into the advanced course, all right? But you start doing all these things, and pretty soon these patterns just start to flow, all right? The fact that you've already learned the pentatonic patterns gives you a big head start on understanding all these diatonics. There are 5 pentatonic patterns. There are 7 diatonics, so you've already learned the skeleton for 5 of the 7 diatonic patterns by learning your pentatonics. All right? So, there we go. That's the diatonic situation. You want to tackle this. It's a big thing, but you want to get into it and really dig in. All right? Have fun.